everybody. Welcome to another episode of Wrong About Sports. I am a Chicago Bears fan who's glad you can't lose on a bye week. Brian McDaniel.
And I am Vikings fan, fresh from across the pond with 1-1 Carla Bigham.
And we
And we
are
are wrong about
Wrong About
sports.
Sports. So the Bears and the Packers had a bye week this
Mhm,
week, probably well timed for both teams. I was a
mhm,
little upset when the Bears had such an early bye, you know, because there's a lot of season left. But I
mhm.
think it was a good time for them to regroup. And then the Packers are licking their wounds from some bad losses and ties and whatnot. But Carla, your team played. They were in London this week. You had
Yeah,
watched them in Ireland, but
yes,
we're not at the London game. But this was a game where the Vikings were looking really bad for most
yeah,
of the game. They did pull it out at the end. But
yeah.
what are your feelings about what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't pretty. They did better than I think expected. I mean, when you had by the end of the game, I think there were four backups on that offensive line. I mean, you had a third string center never played before in that position, fourth string tackle, rookie guard, and who the heck knew what was going to happen with the quarterback because Wentz went into halftime with a shoulder, and Brosemer was warming up. He took the final snap before the half, so. With all the injuries on both sides. Two of our main linebackers, Cashman and Van Ginkel, are both hurt. Darisaw is not up to 100%. They had him on a snap count, and
I've never
I
heard of
mean,
that for a lineman like that.
and the game is on the line. I mean, I think they did end up checking with them. I know you and I were communicating about this during the game, and then after, I think they talked to KOC, the coach, after, and they said, yeah, I did talk to him, and we took him out because of the just because they wanted to be cautious with him. But when the game is on the line, I don't know that I mean they ended up doing it. It worked out fine. All's well that ends well, I guess. But I just think they really need this. They really need this bye to heal. It was not pretty yesterday. Wentz threw for 236 yards and a tutty at the end there to Addison, who was not on the good graces because he decided to go hop on, hop off or something. I don't know, and miss the walkthrough. And
I saw a great meme because what had happened was I think that Addison had missed a walkthrough
yeah,
because he was just touring London, and it was a meme of Joey from Friends just walking around London, going "London, baby." So
yeah,
that
yeah.
was
It's and Justin Jefferson had some really good words to say that after in his interview, post game interview, and just said, I'm taking him under my wings to make sure he's right, but was disappointed, and he's a very important part of the team. He is a very important part of the team. He's a very good receiver.
yeah.
And let's just hope this maturity kicks in here, and he understands the significance of the opportunities. And
Well,
but
you almost have to worry a little bit that he's not getting it because he just came off of suspension for his reckless driving,
yeah,
which was not his first bout with that. He's got a chance to make a lot of money here, and he is doing very little to help himself.
yeah, yeah. But they end up winning it 21-17. Again, they go into a bye, and then they got just a hell of a schedule coming up, starting with the defending champs who had their first loss
Yep.
yesterday. The Eagles, and no more. Bills lost yesterday, so there's no more undefeated teams, which is rare for this early in the season. But it's I think this is going to be a big dogfight all the way through uh, the season in this division, but also just through the conference. It's just a lot of the NFC is gonna be a tough one all the
Well,
way
yeah,
through to
and,
the end.
and the Eagles, like you said, they lost this week, and they have looked vulnerable all year. They've just been pulling it out. There
Hmm.
really isn't that dominant team. I would
Yeah.
say after the first week, the Lions have been looking pretty good.
Yep.
And they won this week, and the Packers looked unbeatable until they were beaten and then tied. They lost to the Browns, who the Vikings beat this week, and then they tied to Dallas, which is just embarrassing.
Yeah.
The Bears aren't anything, and you're kind of looking. The Rams are only okay, and the Niners, as they are every year, banged up.
Seattle is a team to watch, Brian. I
Seattle
mean,
was pretty good, but then they lost at home to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay.
yeah,
So
and Tampa Bay's a team to if they
yeah,
get it together. It's just about staying healthy and staying consistent.
yeah,
I mean, our team, the Vikings have it. They have the talent. Right now it's injuries. I would say the play calling changed. The play calling changed this week, which I was pleasantly surprised about. It was questionable, I think, just how it's just the play calling was weird. And I think they switched up a little bit. And I appreciated that. But now it's about getting healthy and staying consistently healthy and that grit to stay through to play all four quarters. We can do it, and I'll say this about your Bears: the future is theirs with the team they're trying to build. And then talking about the Lions real quick, like I love Dan Campbell. I just absolutely love him. One of my favorite people. Emotionally, he's a player's coach. He's just great. You would think losing two of your coordinators. You and I were the first episode of this. We talked about like, ooh, brutal. You lose both your coordinators and what like 12 players they go into. Um, they've they've held together. They've
yeah.
held together, and it's just impressive his leadership and what he's been able to do with that team thus far. Thus far. I mean, let's see. Again, it's going to be a fight all the way through.
Well, and the Bears had a bye this week, but next week they play the Washington Commanders, which is a revenge game. Because if you
Mhm.
remember, they played last year, and the Bears had the
Field
game.
goal.
The Bears had the game won, and then and their Tyreek Stevenson, their cornerback, he's playing to the crowd and yucking it up. And then they threw a Hail Mary. He wasn't in position. Ball got tipped. Commanders caught it for a touchdown in what is one of the most brutal losses that any team has suffered in any long time. And that, Eberflus is gone. So
Yep.
I'm hoping that's another close game because I certainly like our chances a lot more under Coach Johnson than under Eberflus. But we'll see. This will be a good test for the Bears. The Vikings are going into a brutal stretch. The Bears are
Mhm.
kind of in a manageable stretch where they're playing, more than a few teams that are beatable. Doesn't mean they're going
Yeah.
to beat them, but beatable. And the Bears last week, they got their lucky rabbit's foot out and beat the Raiders, and that was a game that under Eberflus the Bears would have lost.
Yeah,
So
and Commanders are a little injured. They're a little
yeah,
beat up
yeah,
as well. And then the only other thing I want to say about the Lions is, I mean, Goff is a beast right now. I think he threw for 258 yards and three tutties yesterday. I
yeah.
mean, it's a hell of a game. I mean, it's against the Bengals, and you and I were talking a little bit before this. There's a lot of teams that are playing with backup quarterbacks. You got Mac Jones with the 49ers. I, I, I did Jaden Daniels did play yesterday.
He played this week. Yeah,
Yeah, he was questioned. He didn't play last week, but
yeah.
obviously Wentz is a backup. But plenty of quarterbacks that are out. Um, and the Bengals, though, with Burrow being gone, they've felt this a little bit. Um, and they haven't really rebounded.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of tools on that offense, especially. So I at what point do you kind of say who's out there? Who's out there that
We got Jake Browning, who put up some decent yards and points numbers, but they were playing from behind, and he threw three interceptions. So three
Mhm.
touchdowns versus three interceptions is not really that great of a game for
No.
fantasy purposes. He at least redeemed a couple of his players like Jamar Chase. But with the Bengals, I mean, they are running the risk with all of these injuries that they have, and another year of no Joe Burrow, of kind of wasting some of the prime years of not just Burrow but Jamar Chase and
Chase,
a couple other,
Brown.
and T. Higgins, and all of that. So they have to kind of make a decision here. Like you said, do they go out and try to find a more capable backup? It's hard to kind of throw a quarterback in there, but
Kirk
somebody like
Cousins or
Kirk
Russ Wilson.
Cousins could definitely kind of pick it up. Or are they thinking, all right, well, this is a lost season again. So are we gonna, try to tank, get that good draft pick to help us for next year, get an offensive lineman, whatever they might need? So I'm not sure. But a question I have before we get
Mhm.
back to that, about the injured quarterbacks. So I'm one of the people that believe the conspiracy, at least believe it a little bit, the conspiracy that JJ McCarthy is not quite as injured as they're saying. And now they've kind of said, well, his ankle's even worse than we thought, which almost makes me think that maybe he has actually hurt. But I don't like, and you're seeing this in all sports, and we got to blame Twitter. But there was so much hype for JJ McCarthy. He
Mhm.
has a couple of bad games, which he's young. Really his first opportunity, and now all of a sudden, like, people are willing to give up on him for the rest of his career. I don't know that that's right, but I
No.
do think that if the Vikings are going to stay on a upwardly moving trajectory, they kind of need to keep Wentz in there as long as they can keep him upright.
Yeah, I think they go back to McCarthy if he's healthy. I think they'll go back to McCarthy again. I think I've said this, but you don't have a lot of money invested in either one of these two, not significant amounts. So you can kind of rotate between the two of them depending on what you want to do. Not a really good strategy though. That's just not a wise one. But um, I just think McCarthy is in his head a little bit. He reminds me so much of Christian Ponder. Like he
Yeah.
just overthought so much. And then you have, in my opinion, Wentz that looks a little bit like Darnold, where he holds the ball too much. Only kind of wanted to throw it to Justin Jefferson. You saw yesterday he was getting it to Hawkinson and he got it to Addison. Remember the Vikings are without Adam Jones. Mason is good, but he is not a receiving running back like Jones is. And so I just think if we get healthy, watch out. I do think you stick with McCarthy. We have every reason to be excited about him. I mean, he won one national championship game, been there a couple times with Michigan. Like what huge recruit out of high school for college, obviously. Um, we have every reason to have high expectations for this kid, and he is talented. I just think it's the maturity and the pace and the time. And I think with Josh McGowan and Kevin O'Connell with him, it's good opportunity. And Wentz is probably a good mentor as well. I was a little nervous because we ditched our backup quarterback while we were in Europe to make room on the roster. So you had Cam Akers uh, with a helmet with the radio and throwing and did the wildcat and everything like that. So we were slim pickings there, of who would happen to be in there. Brosmer got hurt while, you know, Wentz got hurt. So we're getting a little we were getting a little slim pickings down there with it. But I do believe that we have opportunity with both McCarthy and Wentz. And Brosmer. Brosmer is a big future too. I mean, guy's natural raw talent.
Well, and one thing that I want to highlight is, Carla, we have a sponsor for the Wrong About
Yes.
Sports podcast. We want to thank our friends at the Minnesota Licensed Beverage
There
Association.
we go.
Since 1952, the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association has been helping licensed beverage retailers in the state of Minnesota with informational resources, educational programs, and government affairs services designed to promote and protect their businesses. For all of their member retailers, they need to understand that with the MLBA, you are not alone. And now
Mhm.
we're no longer alone.